All right. A comparison that I don't really see anyone doing. So, why not do it myself? Welcome back to the Rebel Tech channel. I'm Justin, and in this video we're going to be comparing two large diaphragm condenser microphones. My new partner in crime to my collection, the Lewitt LCT 240 Pro, and the one that I've had for a while and I love this microphone, the Technica AT4040. Now, with these microphones, I will just leave this out there just so you know what I'm dealing with. They're on a regular mic stand, on a multi-mount. This shock mount and this pop screen or pop filter were bought after, but it can be bought in a whole kit. Then with the AT4040, this whole thing came in a package. The case that I have, the shock mount, and the microphone, of course, all in one thing. The pop screen is separate that I got on Amazon, so just so you know. Now, as far as the builds of the microphones themselves, they're very well made. I love the way that they feel. They're incredible. The grills are great. A little different, but I think they both have a inner and outer grill. The inner one on the Lewitt is a little more fine in detail, like a little more closed in, those holes. And the outer is more bigger, coarse, I guess, or larger. I don't know. Dilated? What? I don't know the words. As far as the build is concerned, I mean, they're pretty much on par with each other. I can't lean one way or another. They are very well made, and that says a lot for the Lewitt being almost half the price. So now we're going to get into some techie talk where we talk about the tech, the specs, and everything that goes into these things electronically and internally. Yeah, that's a word. Internally. I'm going to leave up a graphic for you and try to compose myself when I get back. So as far as these specs are concerned, there's only one difference. Obviously, they're both cardioid, they're both condensers, they're both 20 to 20 on the frequency response, and they're both 100 ohms. The difference is the sensitivity, and it's not that much. The AT4040 is 32 decibels, negative, obviously, and the sensitivity on the Lewitt is negative 35.5. Now, the last thing in Techy Talk, let's get into the frequency response, and I know I keep saying this, but if you know what I feel, say it along with me. The frequency response curve is the most important thing about a microphone because it shows how the microphone was tuned. T-shirt pending. I want to get a merch store, I really do. Little things, little silly things like that. Like Techy Talk, that would be a cool idea. Alright, so Future Justin here. This is a redo of the frequency response curve because apparently Lewitt put out the wrong one or had the wrong one up on the spec sheet. I don't know what happened. Some other people have the wrong one up that it did reviews on this microphone when it came out and after. So as of July 14th, this is the updated one. People have mentioned to me that it was the wrong one in the previous one. So if it changes again, there's nothing I could do about it. I'll just basically burn them to the ground, these videos, and pretend they never existed. But for right now, we are going to do it again. Frequency response curve, AT4040 Lewitt LCT 240 Pro. Starting off with the low end. On the Lewitt, we have a natural low cutoff, about 45 degrees, starting around 200, going down to below negative 5 decibels there, maybe like negative 5.5. And this is natural, no switches, no nothing on the Lewitt. So those low end stuff, you can EQ it to be more of a hard shelf, or you can keep it the way it is, maybe emphasize it. I can't imagine any frequencies there that you'll be using, but it's there for you to use, and they're not completely cut off. But if you want, you could take away, add, whatever it is. Moving on to the 4040, we have a flat It's kind of like a like a belly there in that low end, and then dips around 80, very subtle. And then starts to rise back up. That's the natural tone. It also has a 80 hertz low cutoff, which you could see dips right down there. Not too, it's pretty aggressive, but it's not like massive shelf. Poof, right off the bat. So there's your roll off there. Then sticking with the 4040, I love the midsection. It's great. It's flat, nice for spoken word, and also very flexible for editing later. at least in my opinion. And a lot of people feel that a flat midsection is nice, so you can work with it. It's very adaptable and very flexible. So you can cut them if you need. You can emphasize them if you need. Usually with spoken word, it gets a little muddy there, so you try to scoop a little bit out. But depending on the person, depending on the source, will determine if you do that. And of course, if you're doing stuff outside of vocals, if you have an overhead on a drum set, if you have, acoustic guitar, maybe you want some of those mid tones and the low mids, the high mids, maybe some of those specific tones you want. So it's there, it's flat, it's nice. Next, high end. You got massive peaks and valleys here. Well, massive in the sense that it's drastic. So around 6.5K, you have your peak. At about 9K, you have your valley. And about 11, you got a peak again. So depending on the person, depending on the source, will determine if these are applicable to you. And I like the way this sounds. Now, on a chart, it could be construed or just thought of. I'm bad with words. It's really hot. I'm sweating. So it could be seen as a bad tuning or too aggressive, but I like it personally. Lastly, finally, the Lewitt on the high end. At around 1200K, we start to rise up to a plateau, a little bit of a bump there, again at 4K. Then we get the rise in your presence boost at 8K at a peak. This is different than the 440 Pure that I thought was the right one for the 240, but things happen. So we got that peak there, valley around 12, 13K. Again, 15, 16K, another peak. And just like I said with the 44040, will determine if you're going to dampen those, maybe just keep it the way it is, maybe give it a little more boost, but depending on the person, depending on the source, will determine what you do with it. Now, back to previous me, where he continues the story of this comparison. And I'm done with it. I won't be doing any more, at least for a while. I got a lot more stuff to do, and I'm tired of talking about this one here. See what happens when you try new things? Sometimes it doesn't work out. Previous me is going to be more happier, so there you go. All right, so you may have heard like a fan or two or something going on upstairs. Let me know down in the comments what you think about the noise here. And now I'm going to do a distance, 90s, and 180. All right, throughout this video, I've been talking about like 2-3 inches away, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little less, depending on how I move. And this is going to be about 2-3 feet away, maybe probably closer to 2. And this is what it's going to sound like in my studio here. Sound blankets around the walls, so it's a padded room that some people think that I probably belong in. All right, 90-degree test, AT4040 side, and this is going to be the off-axis rejection on stage right. I always forget that, and I should know. I work on a stage. Well, I don't work on the stage. I work as a crew. Like, I'm the crew guy, what's that word? Roadie, that kind of thing. So I should know that. I do know that. I just forget. And for the most part, I just go there. I don't really talk about it. I just go and do the thing. All right, about like 2 feet away from the rears of the microphones, this is your 180-degree test in the mildly treated studio down here in the depths of darkness. And this is what it's going to sound like in an area that's pretty standard. I mean, obviously, it's not like a standard room where you have a lot of flat walls and reflective surfaces. All right, so we're in the booth right now with the Lewitt LCT 240 Pro and the AT4040, as you probably know because you're watching the video comparing the two, obviously. And I'm listening to the Lewitt right now, and this is where I am noticing the things that I'm not really sure about this microphone. And of course, I'm listening to it live, so it's going to be a little different than post. But as of right now, I'm kind of like, for my voice, you get a lot of nasally sound. You get a lot of nose there, for lack of better terms. It's just, it feels like it's right there. Also, to be fair, I have allergies, so it's definitely emphasized right now. So I'm doing the best I can with what I got. I've always loved the low-end tone of this and the darker tone of this. AT4040. It really is a nice, well-rounded microphone for possibly broadcast, or possibly a microphone that you would have on a stream. I guess a broadcast and stream I consider different, because broadcast, I think podcast and radio and stuff like that, and I think streaming is its own entity. But that's just me. They do cross over every once in a while, but definitely a different world for me. Let's go back to the Lewitt. All right, so we're back on the Lewitt right now, and you notice the extra airiness there. And I noticed that my nasaliness is not as emphasized because I cleared out my face. And it sounds a little bit better now. I'm definitely feeling this one a little bit more. And that low end is there, but it's not necessarily emphasized. It's that high end, as we saw in the frequency response, is where you hear it. That is definitely where you hear that texture in that upper end. Now let's take a break and let's do a plosive test. And I gotta go grab the SE Electronics one so that we are having a fair test. Lewitt without anything. It's okay. With the made for the Lewitt pop screen. It's okay. These microphones, you definitely have to have good what's it called? Microphone technique. SE Electronics, or just pick up one of these, and both. Oh, one more. The provided windscreen, which we're gonna do a tonal test after I do the plosives. It's okay. And with both. Why not? Highly recommend get one of these. Definitely better on this. The grill is definitely better. With this, doesn't have that crackly, but it still has a little bit oomph. SE. Good. And both. So, there you go. Alright, so we've been talking into the Lewitt with just the pop screen on. Let's talk into it without the pop screen. Now, this is without the pop screen, and I really don't notice a major difference. Obviously, listening live, I'm not noticing anything. If you notice the difference between the pop screen and naked, for lack of better terms, let me know down in the comments. And now we're going to do a different tone with this, because I know it's going to be a different tone. Okay, now the windscreen is on, not to be confused with the pop filter. And I noticed that it definitely dampens some of that high end. And it kind of emphasizes my nasaliness a little bit in that 2,000 to 3,000 range. I assume so. Popping it off, there it is. There's a little bit more detail there. And putting it back on, you notice that it's definitely taking away some of those. Let's take this off. And now you have a less of an apparatus in between the voice, my voice, and the diaphragm. And it's definitely hearing some of that upper end, those emphasized peaks that we talked about in the frequency response. They're definitely there. A quick test here. Yeah, you definitely notice that this specific model affects it. But if I was to get some of that detail and not have to worry about plosives, this one right here is the way to go. Turn it to the side a little bit like that. And this is how you would try it. I try my best to have good microphone technique, but I get lazy sometimes, or forgetful, or whatever it is. So if I was doing things professionally, quote unquote, then I would be more mindful of it. But right now I'm just showing how the microphone would be used in real world scenarios, because not everyone has good microphone technique, but it's good to practice it. I definitely recommend getting a good habit of good microphone technique, for lack of better terms. All right, so the low cutoff is on the 4040, and I kind of am hot and cold about this. It depends on the tone I'm looking for, the tone I want to hear with the 4040. I definitely notice that it's missing the 80 hertz, but it's not enough to really hate the sound. And if you were to switch over to the Lewitt, where you have more emphasized low end there, the 80 hertz and below, obviously because it's not cut off. We're going to switch it on now, where I'm going to add on the low cutoff. Just wanted to give a palette cleanser. And now, obviously, I can't hear it live because I'm doing it in post, but you guys let me know what you think on how it sounds with a natural switch on this and a post-processing low cutoff on this, 80 hertz. I tried to get the angle in which that curve is going as accurate as I can, but there's only so much I can do. So I try to get it as close as I can and see what you guys think. All right, so Lewitt is natural. Lewitt is sounding just like it should be, and with the regular pop filter. And yeah, I definitely have grown to like it, but it's definitely more neutral. It's not as textured as I'd like it to be, but it is flexible in tone. Actually, now that I think about it, it's very similar to how the PD70 is tuned, and it's kind of neutral and it's flexible to make your own, which is nice. I really like that. So it's when I think of it that way, it actually really makes me feel a little bit better about it, and I like how it's that tinniness is the problem that I don't like. But maybe that's just my voice, and maybe I'll think differently in post. On the 4040, you notice that you have that low end back, and ooh, I really like the way that sounds. It's nice. And just so you know, I should have said this at the beginning, but I'm saying it now. You got the new booth, it's 2.0. It's just bigger. I use the sound blankets that Sean recommended, and I still have the moving blankets on the bow and the stern, sailing related stuff. If you're interested in sailing related stuff, I'm putting out a couple of things periodically through the next couple months and seeing what you guys think. And I know that I can make a new channel on it, but I want to try it here first. Just my own personal thing, just the way I want it. If you're not interested in that, just skip it and wait for the next comparison, because we got plenty of comparisons to come. So yeah, let's go to the untreated room and see how they fare in the untreated room. All right, so untreated room time with the LCT 240 Pro and the AT4040. A tough one to remember, I know. And this is if you've been here for a while, the last couple of weeks, I've done more untreated room stuff in my actual bedroom, and this is not as cluttered as the other room across the way. And this has more reflective surfaces. This is a bigger room lengthwise, not necessarily. This is more of a rectangle rather than a square. It's about 8 by 15 and about an 8-foot ceiling or so. There's an area rug. About a quarter of the floor is covered by an area rug, I should say, and the rest is wood. So possibly something you have to deal with. There's a window here as well that you might have to deal with noise and reflection and all stuff like that. The curtain is on, but it's only a thin curtain, so it only does so much. So I've been about 2 to 4 inches away, and now we're going to do a distance test. Okay, 2 to 3 feet away from the fronts of the microphones in the untreated room. This is what it's going to sound like in said untreated room. Like I said, area rug underneath me, and it's a 8 by 15 room, give or take. I didn't measure it. All right, 2 to 3 feet away from the Lewitt right now on stage left. And this is going to be the off-X rejection 90-degree test, speaking towards a window, possibly some reflection, and maybe less rejection. Reflection, rejection, that's a tough one. Very close in how you say it, and close in words. All right, 2 to 3 feet away from the rears of the microphones, this is the 180-degree test in the untreated room, and this is what it's going to sound like speaking towards the rears of the microphones. You're probably hearing more so reflection back from the wall rather than my voice, because they are cardioid. They reject the sides, reject the back. All right, so the AT4040 is my choice between the two. And this comparison between the AT4040 and the LCT 240 Pro by Lewitt was definitely a eye-opener because Lewitt has shown that they can compete with higher-end microphones of other brands. Just a personal preference on my choice here. It's not a knock on the Lewitt. It was a tough one for me to decide on, but I gotta go off of what I prefer, what sound I like. I like the lower tone. I like the presence boost in the high end for the AT4040. So that's all I got. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you liked the video, please hit the like button down below. It'd be greatly appreciated. Helps this video, helps this channel, and all that stuff. The whole YouTube algorithm thing. Those likes certainly help. And if you like my vibe around here, please consider subscribing. I got more comparisons coming out to other microphones. I got a couple of microphones that I got on sale, so I'm going to be doing reviews, comparisons, and stuff like that to come out. Some sailing stuff just to fill in the gaps of being creative and things like that, and me just stretching my creative juices and creative muscles. Not creative juices. I hate that term, actually, when I think about it. It's kind of like moist. I apologize who's ever triggered by moist, but I said it twice. I'm sorry. Of course, if you have any comments, leave them down below. Just be nice, be constructive, and let's have a discussion and no arguments, please. And if you want to join the Discord, it's available for anyone to join. Rules apply there as well. Just be nice and have a conversation with someone. There's not much going on there, but it's growing a little bit by little bit. Just like this community, we're almost to 2,000 subscribers, and yeah, it's been a fun time and trying to keep up with content and trying to think of things and new ways of doing things. And until next time, take care, and I'll see you rebels in the next video.